Now, at 91 years of age, would you still be doing what you're doing today? And the fiasco is finally over. They have a Speaker of the House. Welcome back. Thanks for stopping by Two Hands and a Foot. We won't tell you who's who. Before we get started though, go ahead and do the usual. Click that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And then the most important thing you could do for me is share this with all of your friends. Let's get into it. Israel, if you haven't been reading the news, is at war with Hamas, a terrorist organization. Hamas just happens to be the elected government of the people who live in Gaza, the Palestinians. Hamas also is backed by the Iranian government. Why is that a bad thing? We just gave $6 billion to Iran. You have to be blind if you think Israel is at fault at all in any of this. Israel has 100% the right to defend itself. And is doing so rather valiantly. Telling what most people would call innocent people to clear the area before we start raiding this place. That's nice. Israel needs to be about their business of wiping Hamas off the map. We, the United States, have sent resources over into that area, and Israel's like, we don't need you or want you to intervene. They don't need us there to intervene for them or to support them other than being a presence needed in the area so that nothing else goes off. But with how weak we are perceived at in the world, I don't know if that's a good thing. That's what we're needed for and we're trying to do. Do we have those capabilities? Yes. But I still think that we're being laughed at and mocked at by others, not just in that region, but all over the world. And so providing that presence really isn't all too effective. So Israel needs us to stay out of everything. They need to go in and wipe Hamas off the map and deal with it there. The tensions between the two, study history, correct history, real history, actual history, not what people want you to hear. And you'll find that Israel has given and given and given and sacrificed more than they have received out of the raw end of the deal that they have been given. And it's not just 1948 where Israel, poof, becomes what Israel is today. The Jewish people have been around for millennia, kicked out of their homeland, came back, and had to give some of it up because it angered people. And then when those people willingly elect a terrorist organization to govern them, and then that government not just declares war, but war crimes. And people are like, don't fire back, don't retaliate, Israel. Well, I'm just going to come out and say it. You're stupid to say that. Israel has every right to defend itself. And its innocent people. Enough of Israel and Hamas, because I could go on for a while. The Speaker of the House, finally, after 3 weeks, of no speaker. We finally have one. But who in the world is Mike Johnson? We had Scalise, and we had Jordan, and then we had Remmer, and now we've got Johnson, and apparently everybody can agree on him. For what, I don't know. We'll figure out what he's all about, what he can do. The reason why the Speaker of the House is important, regardless of what side of the aisle you want to be on, they're second in line to the presidency. So, right now, we have a Democrat in the White House who's occupying the White House right now. So, a Democrat president in the office of the president, a Democrat in the office of the vice president. And then we have a Republican Speaker of the House. The Democrats are okay with not having a speaker. It's just not their party. And besides, the Democrats will fall in line behind whoever tells them what to do. Yes, we want to sit there and bash the Republican Party for arguing over things, but arguing principle is a good thing. And having a mind of your own is a good thing. So having these fractions, as people call them in the Republican Party, aren't really fractions. They're people who are standing up for what they believe in. If they don't think that Scalise or Jordan or Remmer or even Johnson is what they're for, they're not going to vote for the guy. They're not a party toter. It's not a one-size-fit-all party. But they're second. The Speaker of the House is second in line for the president. And in this instance, it's dire because we have the conditions that we're in. After the Speaker of the House, the whole line of secession, Democrats, and they don't mind. They enjoy the turmoil, so to speak, happening in the Republican Party. Now, whether they can't agree because it's pettiness, or if it's a difference of opinion, or what have you, again, sometimes having the ability to think for ourselves hurts conservatives. And in this light, it hurts because even if it's a legitimate beef with all of those people who they nominated for the speakership, it appears that there's division and not just disagreement. There's a difference. There's a time to disagree. And it's okay to disagree. And disagreeing means you're actually thinking. Even though you may be wrong, disagreeing is an act of thinking. And at the very least, you are thinking for yourself. You are a step ahead of those on the left. Even if you're wrong. And that's just saying if you're wrong. If you're right, hey, you're still thinking for yourself. Good, great, grand. And maybe if you're wrong, you're not seeing the whole picture. Who knows? But that's the thing, is that what may be disagreement, the media is clamoring as division. Who knows? But the point is, Mike Johnson from the state of Louisiana is now Speaker of the House. So we'll see. The Speaker of the House is the point of contact, the face of the House of Representatives, of the majority party of the House of Representatives. They're the go-to person. They're the one who makes the deals, or the liaisons for those things between left and right and center and middle and up and down and diagonals of the D.C. area and that the legislative process. So we'll see. We'll see. Wish him the best of luck. We wish him the best of luck. It's like just cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross your eyes, whatever you got to do. Wish him the best of luck in that endeavor. Now, as many as you know, I am a huge fan of the game of baseball. So you know where this is headed. Friday night, this Friday, starts the World Series for Major League Baseball. Now, my team didn't make the playoffs. The team in the state in which I'm close to and cheer on when they're not playing my team, nowhere near the playoffs. The only connection, if you want to call it that, to the playoffs that I have is my college roommate grew up a fan of this team that's in the playoffs, one of the teams that's in the World Series. The Texas Rangers. Nolan Ryan is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He's part ownership for the Rangers. Good for him. They'll be playing the Arizona Diamondbacks. So this Friday, Game 1, World Series. I'm rooting for the Rangers because I'm an American League individual myself. First, when it comes to that type of rooting structure, so to speak, I'm also rooting for them because my friend is a Texas Ranger fan, my friend Conrad, college roommate. I still do. He's one of the guys that I do my fantasy football league with. He's the one who manages that deal, runs that league. So if you're watching Conrad, here's for the Rangers. Hopefully they can pull it off this year. It'd be great to see. They have a great team. They did a really good job. They kind of stumbled at the end there, getting into the playoffs. They had a wobbly end there, but they still made it in and have been doing good so far. But the cool thing is that with the Diamondbacks getting into the World Series, this is the first time in World Series history that the wild card team from both leagues has made it to and are playing in the World Series. Now, in context, the wild card began in 1995. So the wild card hasn't been there throughout all of Major League Baseball history. This started in 1995, and in 2012 they added a second wild card team to the playoff mix, which you would think would increase chances, but not really. What happens is with that double wild card, they play each other first, and then the winning one-game playoff goes into the wild card playoffs, and then division, and league championship, and then eventually the World Series. So it's not really an added number advantage for the wild card to get in, but multiple teams have a chance at their wild card hope. But I digress. Another interesting thing about this is that the Arizona Diamondbacks have a negative run differential. What that means is this, is over the course of 162 games, the number of points that the Arizona Diamondbacks scored is less than the number of runs that they allowed their opponents to score. So they scored 15 points less over the total year than their opponents did, and they still made it into the playoffs, and now they're in the World Series. 10 other teams in history, in all of Major League Baseball history, have had negative run scoring differentials and have made the playoffs, and that includes the strike shortened seasons, COVID in 2020, and I could mention those teams, but I'll post a link in the description of that article of all those teams, of all 11 teams now to include the Diamondbacks. Only one of those teams so far, because it has a potential for the Diamondbacks, one of those teams so far had a negative run differential, and they won the World Series. And that was the 1987 Minnesota Twins. They had a negative 20 run differential, and they won the World Series in 7 games over St. Louis, the Cardinals there. So I'm excited. There's a lot of new first-time things going on this World Series. Again, I'm rooting for the Rangers. I have no skin in the game either way. I'm not going to be heartbroken if they lose. I won't be crying and sobbing my eyes out. I'll be disappointed because that's who I'm choosing, but it's not going to make or break my day. I'll be happy for them if they win for a half an hour, and I might, mention something to my buddy, who knows, whatever. But that's that. So I'm looking forward to it. So this Friday, we have the World Series starting. Game 1, looking forward to it. On that note, I know it starts on Friday and it's going to go into November. A side note, a tangent, I'm going to have to mention it. Honestly, I know we run 162 games. I think we ought to shorten the season. I think we ought to. I know we've extended the playoffs. And I think that's probably the reason why we need to shorten the season. Maybe go back to 156 games. I don't think we need to go drastically down to 142 games. But how about 156? And then keep the World Series in October. It was famous for being in October. And then, of course, they expanded into the wild card in the mid-90s, and then that pushed the World Series into November when you get 4th, 5th, 6th, potentially 7-game series. Especially if your wild card, division, league, championship series all go to 7 games as well. So I think they need to shorten the series back to 156 games. I get it that plays with records and such, but honestly, better quality baseball and more back to the vintage. That's why I like some of these time clocks, speeding up some of these games a little bit. Going back to vintage, the stolen base, I don't like the bigger bases, but I think pushing for the stolen base brings back a vintage type baseball playing style. So I think that can work. I think we need to bring back some of that vintage and go back to 156 games, knocks off a week of the year, and we can get that Game 7 of the World Series back into October. Because we have Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. I don't mind, Derek Jeter being Mr. November. He can keep that. Granted, Yankees, awesome, whatever. But I want that back in October. Anyway, that's enough of that one. All right. Imagine being 91 years old. Now, if you're 91 years old and you're watching my podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Put a comment down in the comment box. But I doubt I draw any 91-year-olds to my podcast, at least right now. But if you're 91 and you're doing your job as you've done for 75 years, shout out to you. And this guy has done it. So this man named Bob Roloff of Appleton, Wisconsin. I came across this article. He finally, after 75 years of being in the business, has opened up his own barbershop. So he's been a barber for 75 years, and he's just now opening his very own barbershop. He's got 2 other barbers with him, and he can style all sorts of whatever. And so he's continuing to barber. That is absolutely fantastic. His father was a barber. And on his bucket list, growing up and working at different places for all these years, his bucket list was to own his very own shop. And so he kept at it. He just kept working and working. And one of the things he says you need to do in order to be a barber, you got to be a people person. You got to be a good visitor, a good listener, a good person, and that's the main thing. And his dad was that way and taught him that way, and that's how he grew up. I love that. So he found what his dad did. He found a passion that his dad had. His dad was a barber for 50 some odd years. And So, the original barbershop that he worked at was opened in 1928. And so when he finally opened up his new one, he got a 1920s barber chair. He cuts all the old people's hair, and he's got another barber in there that cuts some of the younger people's hair. He's even got a barber in there that cuts women's hair. Absolutely fantastic. He fell in love with being a barber. He got his barber's license, I believe it, somewhere between 17 and 19, somewhere in there. And 17, 18, 19 years old. And that was a condition for his wife. He and his wife been married for 70 plus years as well. And that was, hey, you're going to marry me, you're going to marry a barber. And he's been doing that for 75 years. Absolutely phenomenal. I hope that if I do live to 91, that I'm not an invalid, that I'm not a burden on society or my family or anything like that. I would really just like to one of the, if I'm that old and my body decides to go up and give up the ghost and die, I hope it's just in my sleep and I just don't wake up the next morning. But if I'm 91 and I have a chance to do something, if I'm still podcasting at 91, man, I could be reaching other universes, depending on how technology gets between here and 50 years from now. But I wouldn't mind golfing at 91. I got a great mentor of mine that I got to see a couple of weeks ago. And he golfs every twice a week still, and he just turned 85, 86. So a man who's been like a grandfather to me, a mentor, and he golfs once or twice a week, I think is what his schedule allows, and so I want to be that active. I want to be that active, not necessarily if I don't have me cut your hair, unless you want me to shave it all off. And my golf game, that's why you haven't seen any videos of it. I like to play for fun. Sort of. Anyway, I'm way off the point. 91 years old, and he's still doing the thing that he loves. Passionate about barbering and being a staple for others in his community. And so good on you, Bob. Good on you. Appleton, Wisconsin. I think that's absolutely awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So I'm going to leave you with that. Positivity. Not the way that people want to dream of using positivity, of not saying the truth and just everything is good, but actual, real, positive stuff. Like this guy who's got a passion for being a barber and has finally opened up his very own barbershop. Never too late. Never too late to fulfill your dream job stuff. Well, that's all I've got for today. You can have all of the links that are in the description to go find and read everything that we've discussed here today. Follow me on X. Follow me on Rumble. Let's get this going. I'm going to catch you guys on the flip side.